Welcome back to the Rules of Engagement. You just saw a pretty cool promo of a bunch of people receiving a lot of free stuff, right? Well, if you want to receive a bunch of free stuff, it's pretty simple. All you gotta do, facebook.com/MLGpro. You get to this website right here, scroll down a little bit, click on a Dr. Pepper Ultimate Gaming House. There's a brief description of how you can enter the contest. It'll take only a few minutes of your time, and you can win thousands of dollars of awesome hardware, some amazing stuff. You'll be jumping up and down for joy for about a week. It's going to be that awesome. So, and you know what? You have a surprisingly good chance of winning, right? It's not like the lottery where it's 1 in 5 billion. Okay, you got better odds than that. So, go ahead and enter it. It's a great opportunity. It only takes a few minutes, and you can win a lot of cool stuff. So now let's talk about game number 2 between Stephano and Titan. First, we're going to talk about how you can make adjustments to what you're basically how you're playing based on your scouting, what you scout your opponent doing. Then we're going to talk about how to execute a 2-base speed roach assault, and then also how to defend said 2-base speed roach assault. So we're going to jump into game here in just a second, but before we jump into game, let me remind you guys that MLG is all about interaction with the community. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to tweet me at axslav. At the end of the show, I do a Q&A section. I answer all the questions tweeted at me. And also, feel free to leave comments in our VOD section because we do comments of the day where we look at if there's any comments that are interesting. We might spend a minute or two discussing that, kind of giving, you're reacting to what you guys basically ask and what you guys are interested in. So take advantage of all this ability to interact with us. Go ahead, tweet at me, and of course, leave comments. On the YouTube VODs. YouTube is youtube.com/official MLGSC2. Now let's jump into the game, though, and it's going to be Cloud Kingdom. And we're going to look at this through Titan's perspective. So if you're Titan, or you're a Protoss player of note, like Titan is a very good Russian player, and you go, you scout, right? Your first probe didn't, it died early, so you send out a second probe, ninja round. You see no third base. Like, okay. Let's go see if he has a different third base. So you're going to head down here. If there's no third base in sight, you've got to be a little bit careful, right? Now, there's plenty of builds that are 2-base tech builds that are mutilous or infestors, or maybe they're just teching the Hydra, then expanding like we saw Bly do. It doesn't mean they're going to do something crazy aggressive on you. But it does mean it's a possibility. So some things you should do. You should probably allocate more Chrono Boost to sentries. Your opponent is not going to have an insane economy, so you can afford to allocate a few more Chrono Boosts away from those probes onto those sentries. The other thing that's very important, if your opponent is doing a 2-base build, that means you're getting gas, or they're attacking you, either way, get that Mothership Core as soon as possible. As soon as you see no third base here, get that Mothership Core. And why would you want the Mothership Core? Well, the Mothership Core is good for several things, right? If your opponent is all-in you, with roaches, baiting, zerglings, it attacks them from the air. They can't fight back. Extra free damage. And the sooner you get it, the more energy it has to use time warps and photon overcharges for that defense. Again, if your opponent is going mutilous, photon overcharge can be a critical time-bind technique to keep those mutants at bay while you try to build up enough units to defend them. And if you get the mothership early enough, you might have 2 photon overcharges ready by the time mutilus comes. So if your opponent's on 2-base, get that Mothership Core out as soon as possible. It's very, very important. The other thing you should do, let me rewind this just a little bit, is you should not go for a very fast third base. Okay? If your opponent's on 2-base, I would recommend against going out and trying to set up your third base, trying to build, pylons out here and wall this off. Because this type of setup where you wall this here and then you take the third base, this is ideal setup when you're defending like that 11-minute roach max. But your opponent, if they don't have that third base, right, you're not worried about 11-minute roach max, right? What you're worried about is guys killing you right now. This is exactly what Stephano is doing. So now we talked about, how Titan maybe could have reacted a little bit better, had the Mothership Core out, a few more sentries, maybe not invested into trying to set up a third base, and instead a few more units a little bit faster. Executing a 2-base Roach Assault, which is exactly what Stephano's doing. His speed is lined up. Roaches are coming. A very early attack at the 8-minute mark, really trying to get on his opponent and take him down. from Stephano's perspective, right? What he's going to do is he's going to jump in and he has vision. And this is the exact moment when a world-class player like Stephano, right? This is the key moment where he decides how the attack's going to go. So when you're executing this two-base attack and you're Stephano, this is the moment right here. You see what they have, everything they have, and you say, what do I kill first, right? Well, the first thing I do is I maybe send some units in to run by here, force them to use a force field here as soon as possible, right? This is step one. Step two, once it's a force field, what should I focus down, right? Step two. Well, these things are nice, but this pylon powers everything. So step two will be to kill this guy. That's step two, right? Force another force field out of the Protoss. Or actually, the same one might cover both those areas. What's step three? Well, I would like to kill that Psycore so we can't make more sentries and stalkers. Unfortunately, it's not on the low ground, so I can't get the Psycore. But I can get the Forge. So step three is going to be kill that Forge, right? That's step number 3. 1, 2, 3. As soon as you kill a Forge, you can't build cannons. If you can't build cannons, that means the only reinforcement with gateway units. Speed roaches are amazing against gateway units, and as long as it's not like mass force fielding you out. Of course, this early in the game, did not have that many force fields. So you stick them on gateway units, make sure they can't build more cannons to defend. You're going to be in good shape. So 1, 2, 3, and then you run in and you just do whatever you want to do to kill them. And as you look at this, we can see, is he going to follow that kind of 1, 2, 3? Exactly, going for the run-by. Then he's going for this pylon, forcing another pylon to be built. And then, of course, he's going to go for, try to get through there, back up, go for the Forge. And as soon as the Forge is down, this is when Titan's probably thinking at first, he's like, oh, it's a few roaches, not a big deal. Now he sees all these extra roaches coming in, and he's like, oh no, maybe I need to build more cannons. Oh, I can't build more cannons because I lost my Forge. And then, of course, once he loses the Forge, he can't build cannons. What's his production? Well, he's got a couple warp gates. Unfortunately, that's not really going to cut it, as the roaches are going to spill in massive numbers. And once they get in on these Protoss units, like I said, speed roaches are great pound-for-pound fighters when they get up close and can just trade blows with their opponents, just because their damage to cost to life ratio is very good. So he's going to get in on his opponent, keep rallying in. His opponent can't build more cannons. He's only warping his 3 at a time. If an Immortal is produced, the roaches will just kill it right as it pops out. In any case, Stephano's got him in a checkmate position. Titans force a GG out. And a perfect execution of that 2-base roach assault. But now what I'm going to do is I want to jump back a bit and say, okay, let's say you're a Protoss player as Titan. Let's say you got caught off guard by this attack, right? Your scouting failed, you misread, you thought he was doing something else, and all of a sudden, you're at this point in the game. We'll jump it back to, I think it was about the 8-minute mark. Somewhere around here. You're at this point in the game. Back a little bit earlier. Blizzard needs to make a little nicer slider there. That's pretty... Alright, so you're at this point in the game. Your opponent is just come in front of you, right? So what should you do as a split-second reaction, right? We saw Stephano exactly what he should be doing, and he did it to a T. What do you do as a Protoss when you're caught off guard and you've got to defend his 2-base speed roach assault, right? So you've got a couple priorities, right? First priority, make sure they can't get in your base. Buy or sell some time. So first priority is force field this section, right? This is priority number 1. I'm going to put a little 1 at the top right of that. That's priority number 1. Priority number 2, right? Figure out a way, because force fields, you can't force field this thing forever. It's too big, right? So figure out a way to defend against the roaches once your force fields run out. Can you produce a Void Ray or Immortal very quickly? No, you can't. You don't even have a Robo. I mean, your Robo's just started. You have no Stargame production. That's not going to work. Can you warp in a whole ton of gateways? Gateway units? No, you can't. You could build gateways. They take 65 seconds to build, 10 seconds to turn into warp gates. It's going to be too late. So what you got to do is you got to build, I'd say, at least 2 more cannons, if not maybe 3 cannons, right? Build these 3 cannons. That's step number 2. Because that's the only way he can spend his money to help defend. Get those cannons in there. And you want to put them back, right? The reason why you put them back is you put them right up next to the gateway. The roaches walk up and they kill them while they're being built. They never get finished. If you put them back like this, the roaches can't attack them until they kill your other buildings. That's step number 3. As your other buildings die, you put a force field where it is, and then you buy yourself more time to get those photon cannons up. So we see here what's exactly going to happen. He does step number 1. Boom, force field so they can't get in, right? He forgets step number 2. But you know what? He gets step number 3 just right. As soon as they kill more units, you put more force fields to buy more time. As soon as they kill the forge, you put another force field to buy more time. He's buying himself about 40 seconds with these force fields. He bought himself 40 seconds. 40 seconds is enough time to construct all the cannons in the world. Unfortunately, he just forgot that step number 2. You gotta build those cannons because force fields, they buy a lot of time. Eventually, they're gonna fall down, and you gotta have an answer to their army at some point. Wraps up game number 2. We'll take a short break and be right back with game number 3.